Right, well, hello there, everyone. Thank you for joining me today on today's LinkedIn Live. My name is James Osborne. I'm a non-exec director and advisor to the recruitment sector and co-founder of the Recruitment Network. If you're not familiar with the Recruitment Network, or TRN as we like to call ourselves, we're a large global community of recruitment business leaders, recruitment companies, recruitment mentors and advisors, and we all hang out together, one big pot, and help each other maximize performance, productivity, and profitability, my three favorite things. We run these LinkedIn Lives every week on different subjects. It's a chance for us to, while you guys are having lunch or a cup of tea, whatever it is that you're doing this time of day, for us to just sort of share some ideas with you, with one of our friends, one of our partners from the industry, and hopefully get you thinking about some things that maybe you haven't really thought about yet, or you're in the process of thinking about, but trying to work out what to do with it. If you have any questions, those of you who are listening live today, if you have any questions at all, feel free to pop them in the chat. And we'll make sure we get those answered as we go. And those of you, I know a lot of you will be listening back to the recorded version of today as well. So if you're listening back to the recorded version, feel free to send your questions through to us afterwards, and we'll make sure either we or our guest today will get those answered for you. I'm coming live today from Sadler's Wells, which is really exciting. I've never been here before, which is great. So even I was just talking about, I might start singing at any stage because I'm in that sort of place. Which would be embarrassing for everybody. We'll see what happens. But before I get into my singing, let's focus on what we're going to talk about today, which is this whole piece around offshore and onshore outsourcing and a few other bits besides stuff. So looking at internationalization, I suppose, of a recruitment business, looking at offshoring and outsourcing some of your back office functionality and a few other bits besides. I'm actually speaking at a conference here today at Sadler's Wells, which is why I've literally just nipped out, having done a quick presentation. And actually part of the people here today is a real blend of in-house talent, TAs, independent resources, as well as agency recruiters as well. It's really, really fascinating talking about some of the challenges that they're facing and the opportunities. And this very much aligns with some of the stuff that hopefully we're going to chat about today and talk about today. So my guest today is Yves Bizimana. Did I get that right, Yves, by the way?
You did indeed.
Lord for that, which is fantastic. So Yves is the managing director of Workwell Outsourcing. So firstly, Yves, thanks for joining us today. Really great to see you here. Can you just give us a quick overview of you and a quick overview of Workwell Outsourcing, just so everyone knows who you are and why you deserve to be here today?
Hopefully I deserve to. I'm Yves Bizimana. I'm the managing director of Workwell Outsourcing. Thank you very much for inviting me to this, James, and the TRN. Workwell Outsourcing is a provider of outsourcing services to the recruitment industry and also engagers of contingent workers. So we all know that engaging contingent workers and paying them brings a lot of difficulty. So we specialize in that space, helping businesses make that back office work. We have clients of all sorts. We provide funded back office to smaller businesses, startups. So if you're a startup looking for funding, or if you're a business that already has a funding arrangement somewhere else, but you're not happy with that, we can help you get into the right space in that. We help businesses with technology for the back office. So that would be a pay and bill platform is what we'd call it, as well as the accounting. And also we help with CRM, with providing recruitment CRMs. And the final bit that we do is also helping with things around candidate vetting, engagement, and helping that onboarding process. So all the things that are not recruitment based, that can challenge a recruitment business when it gets to growth stage, we take care of that. As a group, Workwell Outsourcing also does engagement of workers in terms of EOR. So we're an employer of record internationally, as well as an employer of record in the UK, better known as Umbrella, and also limited companies. So we are a strategic partner to recruitment businesses when they're looking for a supplier that can do all things to support their recruitment.
Fantastic. Nice. Excellent. Thank you. Well, that's perfect. I mean, that's a nicest thing. You pretty much could do everything. It works out, so, which is great.
We do a lot in that space. Yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've been chatting about today is part of the presentation this morning, and a few other things that were going on. We're talking about the sort of how the sort of focus and strategy of a recruitment company moving forward. A big part of it is, moving the eyes away from top level revenue and all that vanity metrics at the top to the bottom line sanity metrics like profitability and growth and etc. And obviously that leads into how do we become more efficient, how do we become more productive, And then obviously that conversation often dissects off into things like AI, it dissects off into outsourcing, offshoring, and so on and so forth. Just talk us through, because if we're focusing on operational efficiency, we're talking about reducing costs between turnover or gross profit into net profit and all that type of stuff. How does outsourcing, in particular back office functions, support that?
If you look at what outsourcing is, it's really about scaling. So if you look at any recruitment business growing up, the first thing you focus on, let's have a CRM, let's place people, let's find clients, right? Rarely do you think about how is this going to work if you even know the word back office. So what happens over time, businesses start to get complex, and that process of paying their contractors, invoicing their clients, and financial reporting all starts to become a bit complex. And with time, what is actually happening is as your revenue grows, your cost and overheads in the back office are also growing at the same rate. Mm-hmm. So you're not efficient, you're not effective in the back office. Outsourcing helps you scale, resolve that problem. Because if you then take a stop, look at your technology, look at your workflows, look at how you do these things in the back office, from paying your temps to invoicing your clients to collecting the cash and then to reporting, you then might have a chance to create efficiencies in that process. Outsourcing gives you that, because what then you're doing is looking at providers of such services that have the skill set in that space to actually provide you the right technology, provide you the right people expertise, and actually maybe even re-engineer some of your processes. So what then happens is you've scaled the business ready for growth to ensure that if, for example, you now get a new contract that adds another 50, 30 temps to your business, you're not going to be struggling to collect that cash because you can't invoice them properly. So outsourcing is giving you that ability to actually, without bringing in expertise internally, to actually look at your processes, get them right, and reduce the cost of doing that in a number of ways, from technology to people to expertise.
And do you foresee, therefore, a recruitment company of tomorrow being smaller but using more technology to make their recruiters more productive, to be using outsourcing to take away some of that heavy lifting and give you a bit of fluidity, I suppose, in your ability to scale up, scale down? So do you think a traditional recruitment company might be smaller in tomorrow's market than it is currently today, but for that reason?
Oh, absolutely. And you touched on automation as well. There's lots of things that probably will change that. I think if you look at historically, especially big recruitment businesses, it was a thought that paying your contractors and invoicing your clients is a core competence. It's an important competence, but it's not a core competence. Recruiting is your core competence, I'd argue. So actually, when you look at what outsourcing does for you, is it's ensuring that core competence is done well, but you can stay lean in the front office and you just have your people focusing on that. So a lot of overhead goes on liaising with the back office for recruitment businesses, trying to find where the placement has been set up right, whether the contractors being paid correctly, whether the timesheets have come in, all that stuff. If it's set up correctly, recruiters are not engaging with the back office. They're actually getting on with recruiting. Their temps are being paid. You should understand that as long as my data is on the CRM correctly on time, I should expect everything in the background to work. And when you've got a good outsourcing partner, that's exactly what should be happening. So that means you have a lean sales force that is totally focused on actually dealing with your clients, as opposed to people in the middle that are dealing with actually making that piece work. There's a lot of admin in the middle, not to mention the back office as well, just to manage the liaison of making that process work. And that becomes very costly.
I was working with, I won't say who they are, but there's a 70, 80 headcount recruitment company, and they had an operations manager in the business. And we basically gave them a bonus scheme or a commission structure, and it was built around how much time could they take away from the front office recruiters, basically the front line recruiters. And they literally they were so incentivized by it. They actually ended up at that time, and this is pre-AI and automation's really kicking in. they were saving recruiters about 20-25% of their time in the administrative stuff, taking it off their desk, which meant obviously we're getting 25% more capacity back out of the recruiters. And that, again, that was going back a few years ago. So to be able to do that with AI automations and else is pretty bloody cool, actually, I think. Providing obviously our recruiters use that extra time to go and do what they should be doing and winning more business and that sort of stuff, right? As opposed to playing golf and taking holidays and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's that's not a problem we can help recruitment businesses with, but it's something we see. I think what's happened, James, what I notice is when you look at CRMs, they've moved a lot forward, right? So in terms of AI, in terms of making, if you select the right CRM in terms of recruitment, you're going to get a lot of potential productivity to your consultants, right? But all that is eroded when the back office is not working. So if you have a really good, so you take a good CRM that is handling productivity, handling onboarding, it's engaging the right people correctly, right from, I've got a candidate registered to I've got a candidate now placed. All that's going well in the sales on the sales part, but then handing that over to the back office to actually getting paid, to collecting that timesheet, to processing the invoice and getting that invoice collected is where the back office challenge comes in. And if that's not looked at properly, what you actually think you've built in terms of, which is what a lot of recruitment agencies do, they focus on the CRM and getting things right in the CRM, not realizing that actually if that's not well integrated with the back end in terms of workflows as well as data flow, then reporting is going to be an issue, collecting cash is going to be an issue, and God forbid, even paying the temps can sometimes be a problem, which creates businesses a lot of headache and a lot of overhead in terms of dealing with that.
Yeah, and that leads me into my next question, actually, because the principle of if you can offshore it to or outsource it to something which is far cheaper, in essence, than the human within your business, and that frees your human up in your business to go and do the stuff that adds more return on investment, net contribution, then tick, that makes sense. The question mark that always comes up when it comes to outsourcing anything, whatever that is, even outside of recruitment, is that piece around quality. Is quality going to diminish? Am I losing control over that? Is it going to be less accurate? So we're going to have issues around accuracy. Is it going to slow things down? Because as we know, speed is of significant importance when it comes to recruitment. So what are your sort of, when you look at things like, invoicing, compliance checks, payroll, all that type of stuff, all that back office stuff, how do you prevent or how do you negate the issue that people, or the fear or concern that people might have around accuracy and quality piece and that sort of stuff? Because that is the number one thing I think prevents or slows people down from just obviously jumping into this because it makes sense.
Absolutely. I think I'd say the first thing is outsourcing to the right outfit. So, you could outsource to many potential suppliers, but getting an outsourcer that fits your sector. So if your recruitment business obviously outsources that deal with recruitment businesses would be preferential, because that means they understand the weekly cycles that make recruitment complicated in terms of back office, and also they understand the complexities, say, around invoicing and paying different types of contractors. So I'd say if you've selected the right one, then why it goes wrong is because of the homework not being done properly. It's not you throw things over the fence and things start working. You actually have to have a scoping process. What we would normally do is a discovery process to understand every recruitment company works differently, right? And the first thing you want to understand is which part of their technology they want to keep. So what's the objective of actually looking to outsource? Is it just cost? Or is it actually a strategic roadmap with technology included? So if the CRM is fixed and that's all they care about, everything else is up for play in terms of what could change and what workflows could make it work. So where that is done really well in terms of understanding, right, this is how you work in your CRM. We understand that. Now we need to understand the data flow from front to back. Now that we understand your structures of clients, do you have parent-child kind of setups? How do you engage your candidates in terms of compliance? Is that sitting in a middle office somewhere, or is it sitting in a CRM? Understanding all that then helps us understand how the data is going to flow. And the key thing, the key driver here, James, I think I'd say for all recruitment businesses is having one source of truth. The challenge is always saying the CRM tells us this is the NFI, the finance system tells us this is the NFI, right? So you're actually then having to reconcile and find where the problem is. But if you create your workflow so that there's one single source of truth, which is the CRM, and then all the workflows flow off that, you're going to have an outsourcing process that actually works, because we understand how the business works, we understand how the data flows, and we are now engaging with the tech roadmap they had in place, or if they don't have one, we've agreed one that is going to service them for the years to come.
And that's an interesting, because you say this piece around like every recruitment company is different, but actually in some cases, I imagine you're probably actually helping people formulate what those workflows should look like, because some people just don't have them. It is too loose. Or in some cases, they might be launching a contract business that they haven't done before internationally. So actually, presumably there is I don't use this word, but blueprint, or there is a way of doing it that you will try and install within them as well. This is best in class. This is best practice.
I think that best in class totally fits this. I'd say the sector of that recruitment business. So, for example, when we approach an oil and gas business versus industrial or logistics business versus a tech SAP business, they're totally different in the way they engage. They engage workers, the way they invoice. So we know that blue collar, we're looking lots of shifts, rostering. How do you manage that process in terms of back office? There's probably going to be lots of paper timesheets, and best in class is, yes, we want everybody to be electronic time, but it doesn't always suit that market. And then you might be bringing in self-bill VMS systems because you're supplying into tech, and there's systems that drive the timesheets, and you have to work with those. So how do you automate that process to make sure that works? So the expertise in understanding how the different sectors work helps you build the workflows that, yes, there is a way that we should work for all recruitment businesses, but the nuances are really important when it comes to how contractors are paid and how those clients are invoiced. Are they a self-bill system? Are they spot business? Are they international with withholding tax? FX comes in. Understanding all those things when you're doing the setup is really key to get it right, because what usually is a result when you don't is a lot of investment and none of the ROI.
Yeah. The companies that you guys are working with at the moment at Workwell, are they business? What are they doing? Are they doing stuff? Are they working with you because they're looking to push into an international market? Is that their strategy at the moment? Because obviously we spend a lot of time talking to the market about what's everybody else doing, so making sure everyone else understands that. But are you finding that people are using your services predominantly at the moment to facilitate their ability to go international, or is it more to expand from within their existing client base and squeeze more customer lifetime value? What's the number one driver behind why people are coming to you at the moment?
I'll answer that question by segregating them into three categories, right? If they're big business, I'm talking with back offices of maybe 30 people, right, in their back office. They'd be looking at transformation projects. They're looking at, we have multiple systems all over the place, don't talk to each other really well. We have a lot of manual intervention, hence why our back office is really big. Reporting is a headache. It can never be on time. Our management accounts are always a month late. And actually, there's always views about how much commission should be paid, what the NFI really is versus what consultants think it really should be, right? So those businesses are probably looking at a transformation project for tech when they come to us. So they want a bit of consultation, project management, as well as sometimes they actually want to offshore. So they want to totally go offshore. They're outsourcing. They want the cost the cost advantage of being best offshore. So they will probably understand at this stage that can save them up to 30-40% on their total back office costs. So you can imagine on 40 people, that's quite significant.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions, actually. So you're seeing it around 30-40% is the expected savings, you're thinking?
Absolutely. On enterprise business, anything north of 30-40%, we usually achieve on ROI.
Right.
Then you have the middle-sized businesses. So again, if I use contractor numbers, you're probably looking at about, say, 50 to 250, 300 kind of contractor numbers. Those businesses have grown. They probably have an exit strategy at some point. They kind of know their market really well. And what they're looking for is just having everything sitting in one place. So they have a cost that's variable that moves with business. Take COVID, for example. If you had all your people employed by you before furlough, right? You have all these costs that you're going to have to meet, even if business has really fallen off the cliff. With outsourcing, you're paying for what you use. So those businesses come to us to get the full service, but they know that it's a variable cost in terms of where their business performance is. If the market is bad, they're not going to be paying so much for their back office. If the market is great, they're quite happy. It's a good problem to have. They're paying exactly what they should have. And then the third section is businesses looking for funding, usually startups or businesses that have done well with another provider in terms of funding, but they haven't got the full back office capability to give them that helps them grow from a fully funded solution, which is a percentage on your gross fee, versus a banking invoice discount facility, which works slightly different and means you're a lot more mature in terms of how that works. We help businesses transition through those funding stages. And so those businesses will come to us to say, look, Eve, we're paying this kind of percentage on our gross. We've grown. We're now, 12 million in turnover, for example, and we're looking to move into an invoice discount facility, but we don't know which one's right for us. Should we go to Lloyd's? Should we go to Metro Bank? Or should we? So they're looking at a few banks, but they don't understand the difference in terms of how that's going to work for them versus 100% finance, which they might have had from somewhere else. We then walk them through that, do the forecast, help them understand what they'd be saving whilst understanding the obligations that come with it as well. Because if you're on 100% finance, VAT, all those things are taken care of for you. You don't have to worry about the back office in any way. You don't have to worry about working capital in any way. It's all covered as part of the service. But when you matured and actually move into an invoice discounting facility, now you need to think about how you're managing working capital. How much should you draw down? How much, when's the VAT due? When is that going to be paid? And we've seen lots of agencies struggle and in some cases actually go out of business by not understanding that maturity step of moving from one funding product to another. It can really give a business strain. And so we help them through that process of growth to go from one funding product to another. So really 3 categories.
And that lines with one of the questions that have come in, Eva, actually, about is at what stage should a recruitment company use external finance to cash flow their contract book, and what stage should they try and keep? Because you do sometimes see recruitment businesses almost having that they're trying to fund it themselves for a period of time, but then it gets to a point where it's actually suppressing their ability to expand the business.
Yeah, I'd say as soon as possible, and that sounds crazy because it's you think the way an invoice discount facility is set up is you'd have a minimum, right? So let's say, for example, you might have £1,000 minimum, but you're only drawing it when you need it, right? So if you cash rich, that means the worst you're going to be doing is paying £1,000 a month. But actually, let's assume you're doing tech contractors. The last thing you want is to have a deal and then you can't actually fund because you don't have a finance facility in place. So I'd say as soon as possible, as long as you can cover the minimum, because that means that you can actually grow your business without that restriction of worrying about, can I fund another 15 contractors, right? Yeah. But again, I think before choosing which way to fund, it's important to understand what's the right funding for you, right? If you look at, there's a number of providers out there that provide what we call 100% recruitment finance. That means we are, or the provider would be paying your contractors without question, as long as you've passed a credit check, your client has passed a credit check. So that means you don't have to worry, do I have money to pay these contractors? So that's a good way to start. And that's why we say we support a lot of startups in this way, because you're purchasing 10 contractors. You don't have to worry whether you have money. The provider will pay those contractors and then pay your margin. So actually what you have to worry about is paying your rent, paying your other expenses out of your margin, but it's forcing you to only use the money you are actually making. Unlike other recruitment businesses that might take an invoice discount facility at the start, and they don't really know what amount of money they're using if they don't have an FD, somebody to actually look after the working capital and make sure the finances are in place. And we see a lot of recruitment agencies end up in trouble with this. So understanding the right funding product for you at the start is really important, especially if you don't have a qualified finance person.
Okay. I'm just conscious of time, Eve, and I've got 3 questions that have come through by the private chat. So I just want to just ask those to you and get some sort of quick answers, I suppose. We're talking a lot about scaling up. Someone's asked about how does it work when you want to scale down. So, if people work with an outsourcing provider, they work with Workwell, all going fantastic, then something goes a little bit awry and they want to scale back down again. Is that possible, or are they locked into this thing?
No, absolutely. And that's where outsourcing is really good. We talked about, COVID as an example, when your business falls off the cliff. With the outsourcing, again, understanding how the pricing works and what model you've chosen, it usually will mean that it's a variable cost, which is, if I'm placing out 10 contractors, I'm being charged based on 10 contractors. If I'm placing out 50 contractors, my charge is based on 50 contractors. That way, you're never paying more than you should be paying for your service. So it's a variable, which in a way goes, but it's growing with me, which kind of goes against the whole idea of outsourcing. But that's good for growing businesses in that middle space I talked about. And when you get to it, you're a really big business, and now you're ready to have your own outsourced team, native team. That's when you start to look at offshoring. But I think offshoring is not worth it at the start until you've kind of grown to scale. And you think you have, because again, if we create a native team for you and we run it, you need to engage with that team, right? Why would you do that if you're not ready? Actually, just buy the service. Buy the service in, and it's variable at that stage. If we create a team for you, then you move to a different kind of pricing, which is based on headcount offshore, which is obviously a lot cheaper than headcount in the UK. So it's still worth it.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Next one, and I think this has come from a nervous operations manager. Is it like AI plus people, or is it like AI replacing people? So,
very good question. Very good question.
Is outsourcing going to take their jobs away?
It's both, actually. So we're currently engaged in a automation project where we're building bots for inshoring, believe it or not. Right. So we know that not all customers like offshoring, and we know that some customers actually want everything to stay on base. So in that case, we're offering outsourcing using bots. So it's actually automation. At the moment, I'd say it's a mixture of both, because automation is quite new. There are different products there for automation, and it's very expensive. So an agency on its own to take up automation, I'd say they probably have to be quite big, because it's expensive to build these bots. You have to go through scoping, understanding how your process works, really identifying your processes very clearly so that you can build a bot that does it. We're doing that on behalf of agencies so that they don't have to do it for themselves. But yes, it's a mixture of both, and bots would especially be attractive to those people who don't want to outsource offshore.
Perfect. And last question, and this is a little bit from me actually, and a couple of people mentioned it, but geographically, where is most of the offshoring happening these days? Because obviously previously it started in the Philippines, then it was all India, now it's South Africa. Where's it all happening? And is there anywhere new going on that we should be thinking about?
I think South America is coming up a lot more, but it's still very US focused. So Mexico, Colombia, those places are coming up quite a bit. Chile, I've come across as well. But South America is mainly really for the US side. I think for us here in the UK, South Africa is becoming very popular. India has always been popular. Eastern Europe was the first. So I went out in Eastern Europe back in 2008 in terms of outsourcing and set up there. So Eastern Europe was probably the most popular one back then. But as with the EU, obviously prices catch up. It's becoming a lot more expensive. So it's really for the big businesses in Eastern Europe. You don't really see it so much for recruitment. I think for recruitment, you're looking at India, you're looking at South Africa, you're looking at Manila.
And who knows, with what we're doing in the government, with reopening Brexit again, and with all the stuff that's happening with Trump, it could be anywhere for tomorrow. Who knows where it's going to be, right? So,
it could be the US with Trump pulling all the jobs back.
No comment. I'm not saying anything at all. Right, listen, Eve, we've come to the end of our time. I mean, brilliant, really fascinating. Thank you. This is such an important part, because the recruitment companies we're working with are looking at how do we build hyper productive recruitment companies in tomorrow's market, because there's plenty of market out there. But if you're hyper productive, you're going to make twice as much, 3 times, 4 times as much net contribution. And whether that's technology, whether that's changing the skill set of your recruiters, whether that's outsourcing and offshoring, whether it's a blend of all 3 and more, we've got to be thinking about this. It's really important to get on top of this as much as anything else, I think. So Eve, really appreciate it. If people want to reach out to you, I know Lydia's put in the contact here, but if they want to reach out to you directly, best by email or via LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is great. Yeah, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I'll come back to everybody. We help lots of people in this space: big businesses with consulting, smaller businesses with funding, and medium businesses with actually getting that variable cost right, so that it moves with your business and you're never paying for more than what you need in terms of overheads. Fantastic.
Really appreciate it. So do reach out to Eve on LinkedIn. He is the only Eve Bizimana out there, so there aren't any others, so we know that. So great to catch up. Lovely to see you. Thanks everyone for joining us today for either live or listening back to the recording, and we'll catch up very soon. Thanks everyone. Take care.